Hey everyone, James Cratch here in East Rutherford. A little technical difficulties to start the process. Dan Duggan is right here. We're going to try to get this out there. It's a little crammed. Giants about to have practice in about an hour or so. Get ready for Sunday's game against the Eagles here at MetLife Stadium, right over there to my right. We are live here, so we're just going to talk about Giants-Eagles first. Obviously, Giants coming off the bye week. Big game for them. And Dan, the offense has really struggled so far this year, and what do you think some of the changes they might do in the second half here?
Yeah, I outlined them in a story last week. I don't know if Ben McAdoo was reading. I guess we'll find it on Sunday. I think just some of the biggest stuff is the word I would just go with creativity. There was very little imagination in that first half, very predictable, a lot of the same formations, same personnel groupings, same plays. I know that Rich Eisen made some jokes about how can a guy have a play sheet that big and call the same 5 plays, but there's some truth to that. I think that with the weapons this team has, and you have a quarterback with Eli's, intelligence and experience, you should be able to, get a little more creative. So I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think we're going to see wholesale changes. I know everyone wants to see the young guys, and maybe you can get into that. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think there's going to have to be some tweaks, or otherwise you just wasted the bye week. So what do you think about getting the young guys involved?
I think you're going to see more of the young guys get involved, but at the same time, I don't think you're going to see Paul Perkins come out there on Sunday and get 20 carries. I don't think you're going to see Jarrell Adams be the starting tight end all of a sudden. I think they're going to stick with Rashad Jennings as starting running back. I think they're going to stick with Larry Donnell for the most part as a tight end. We use Will Tye in there. I think you'll see more of those young guys, but I don't think you're going to see any major changes on the offensive line. Obviously, they didn't make a trade Tuesday or the trade deadline. I think Bobby Hart's going to be the right tackle. Maybe Will Beatty will finally play at some point, but we're mid-season. The guy still hasn't taken an offensive snap. I think he's only in special teams work. You got to wonder if there's even a role for him. And Bobby Hart hasn't been great, but I don't think he's really been that bad either. I think Flowers has made some progress in the past few games, so there's really no major push to change there. And if you're going to have a guy off the bench, I would think Newhouse, who should be back from a calf injury, should be that guy. So I think you're going to see some of the young guys play, but you're not going to see a whole lot of young guys play. Dan, this is a really big game for them on Sunday. I think this is a game that this is going to kind of be a fork-in-the-road moment for their season.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the schedule to this point. They're 4-3. They've lost to pretty much every good team they've played. And the Cowboys win, looking back, that looks like a really good win. Because at the time, you didn't really know what to expect. I think you have to, take into account the fact that was Dak Prescott's debut. So I think he's gotten a lot better. I think that team's gotten a lot better. But aside from that, the teams they've beaten, they're not playoff teams. The Rams and the Ravens and the Saints, those are mediocre teams. And I think the Giants are in that big middle group in the NFL. And this is a chance to maybe step out of that a little bit. Obviously, the Eagles haven't been world beaters since their start, but it's a division game at home, the type of game you have to win if you're going to make the playoffs, in my opinion.
Definitely. We're going to answer some of the questions we got at NJ.com and on Twitter. Your first question guy had for us is Robert Thomas. Could he be a pass rushing defensive tackle in the second half? That's what his kind of forte is. That's what the scouting report on him is. But he's sort of the mystery man. He got here off waivers. He missed a month due to his illness, which no one has really ever said what happened. He's been inactive. He's been a bit player here and there. But I think he's definitely a guy you might see something more out of the second half coming. Now, Dan, you wrote this on Wednesday morning as we're shooting this about the Will Johnson situation. We get asked all the time, can Will Johnson come back? Can Matt Lacoste come back? Can Nikita Whitlock come back? There's an answer to all 3 of those, and it is?
It is no. There's no one coming on a white horse to save this tight end situation, fullback situation, whatever you want to call it, which, obviously has been pinpointed as one of the biggest problems in the run game. So, no, those guys were all put on IR before the 53-man roster was set. In order to be eligible to return, you need to be on that initial 53-man. Now, again, I wrote an article. Some people objected to the fact that, Will Johnson wouldn't have made that much of a difference. Well, you brought him in here with the specific role in mind, and the guys that are in the position that he plays have woefully underperformed. So my whole point was Jerry Reese had a chance to at least give him the option. And now, hey, listen, maybe Shane Vereen comes back, and he's the guy you want to save that IR spot for, and it's all moot. Again, this is all debatable, and that's what's fun about this. Part of the job, we're skeptics, you make comments, but I just think the fact that they didn't give themselves the option to have Will Johnson come back, when you look at how bad this tight end play has been, how bad the run blocking has been from that position, I just think it's an easy thing to question, and it's timely now, because had they put Will Johnson on IR, he'd be eligible to return this week. So, you just look at things are pretty much at a critical mass where no one wants to see Larry Donnell ever again. If you read the comments on NJ.com and on Twitter. So you had a guy who maybe could have been the answer. And unfortunately, we won't find that out until maybe next year, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's a case of that they should have put Will Johnson on IR and said this is going to be the guy who's going to return. It's just they would have had that option available to them. Obviously, you can't, right before the season starts, say this is our return guy, because you don't know who's going to get hurt. I mean, anyone who could have been much more important to the cause than Will Johnson could have gotten hurt, and you couldn't use it, but you just give yourself that option down the road. As it is now, it's looking like it's going to be Vereen, or I guess Michael Thompson.
I mean, if Vereen's even healthy.
If Vereen's even healthy,
that's the thing.
A lot of people assume that he's going to be back, but it's not clear yet.
Not necessarily a 2-month injury.
Right before the bye week, he said he felt good, but he didn't really know where he was.
He's still got a contraption on that arm that that he's a ways away. Put it that way.
Another young guy we got asked about, 4th-round pick B.J. Goodson out of Clemson. Does he get to see any time at linebacker? He's become one of the key special teamers for them, but as of now, I think he might go his full rookie year without seeing much time on the defense, just because the Giants are pretty good. Kelvin Shepard, they like what he's done in the middle. They've got Keenan Robinson playing well, Jonathan Casillas, Devon Kennard. They're very healthy at linebacker. They were not healthy at all last year at the position. So unless there's an injury, I think you might see a year where Goodson's just going to kind of be a special teamer, not necessarily see any time on the field, but I think they definitely feel that he is their potential middle linebacker of the future. Dan, any quick thoughts before we go about Sunday's game?
Like I said, I think it's just one of these games. You're a playoff team. You have to win. I mean, hey, they're in second place somehow in the NFC East. Sitting out last week was probably the best thing that could happen for them. But this team's coming to your building. You have to go back there at the end of the season. They got that 2-game slate at the end at Washington, at Philly. The season's probably going to hinge on that unless something really falls apart here. But you have to make up a little ground now. Get a little bit ahead. Get this win in your back pocket. Philly is a very similar team to the Giants. They've got some good wins, they've got some losses, they're flawed. So you got to win these games. Again, if you want to be a playoff team, you beat the Eagles on Sunday. That's just how that's the only thought I have about this game.
I agree with Dan. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to win this game. The Eagles are a beatable team. I think we'll get into it later in the week where the Giants have the edge, where they don't have the edge. Obviously, NJ.com is the place to be for Giants Eagles week because we cover the Eagles too. We've got 3 guys in Philly, 3 guys up here today. So we'll get into that later in the week. But I think Dan is right. If the Giants want to make the playoffs, they want to get back to the postseason, they got to win this game Sunday. That's it for us here. Keep it here at NJ.com all week long. We'll have complete coverage, in-depth coverage of Giants Eagles, both sides of the Delaware River, and it will obviously all be here Sunday in East Rutherford for the game. Until then.